Okay. Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, March 12, 2019 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Heitman.
Here.
Trustee Dempsey. Present. Clerk Vorba here. Trustee Dorshevitz.
Here.
Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Treasurer Clinton. Here. Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
All present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The only person who's not staff or media in the audience is our state representative, Matt Kolazar, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Item C is the approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr.
I move we approve the agenda as written.
Motion's been made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item D is approval of the consent agenda. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Motion's made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Dempsey. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next up, we're going to have State Rep Matt Kolazar come forward for just a couple minutes to update us on what's going on in Lansing. We don't know which microphone to use, so.
Pretty loud. Oh, no, it's definitely
That's good. That's working.
Definitely this one. Okay, thanks. First of all, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is well. Couple updates from Lansing. First, I want to start off by thanking the board for supplying me with the resolution about the stoplight. I did turn that in with my appropriations request. Not sure how that's going to work out in terms of the budget that ends up happening, but I will tell you that even if it doesn't go through appropriations, I plan on continuing to pursue this through other avenues. So if it doesn't go through our budget, there still are some ways that I can go, some different avenues I can explore, work through MDOT, things like that. So it is something that I plan to continue to pursue regardless of what happens through the budget, but I did submit it, and I did submit the appropriations request along with your resolution. So thank you again for giving me that, because it gave me just a little bit extra ammo there when going in with it. It shows that there was, that this is a local issue, been highlighted here at the local level. Next, Lansing, some legislation that was passed that has been of interest. There was, we passed a bill about 2 weeks ago now on civil asset forfeiture. And basically what it says now is that you cannot seize somebody's assets without a conviction if the amount of what you're seizing is under $50,000. Before that did not exist. So what they were finding is, and the reason for the bill was that a lot of times assets that were seized, even if there wasn't a conviction, it was very difficult for the accused to get their property back. And this was meant to fix that. So that one passed the House by 107 to 3 votes. So very bipartisan, pretty much almost all of us agreed. Beyond that, auto insurance rates are the big thing that is being debated up there right now. There is a special select committee on reducing auto insurance rates. They're in the current process of taking testimony. As far as when we start to see stuff from them, it's kind of anybody's guess right now. But I know they are being very thorough about taking testimony from all stakeholders involved. So other than that, I'd be happy if anyone has any questions.
I want to encourage you to look for alternatives to the 45 cent proposed tax. Mm-hmm. Some work was done a few years ago that there are funds with money in them that is earmarked and is just idle. I want you to scour those funds and look for other ways. We want to be competitive as a state and not be known as #1 for gas tax.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's important to remember that, and I know especially Trustee Vorba and Supervisor Heisey can vouch for this. The very first copy of the draft, or of the budget, is very much a draft. It's very much a rough draft. So, but I will definitely keep that in mind as we go forward, because I know that is probably what I'm hearing more from constituents than anything else is this 45 cent gas tax. So I will definitely keep you in the loop on that as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night. Next is item F1. This is, oh, sorry, public comments and questions. Anybody in the public comments, questions? Okay, we're going to move on. Item F1, this is the fabric recycling contract. Sarah or Chuck, you want to start us off? Who wants to go first?
I'll start.
Quick tee up. This is something that I've been talking with our coordinators since even before Sarah came on board to reduce the amount of waste that is landfilled and potentially redeploy fabrics, shoes, even small appliances instead of ending up in the landfill. And Sarah was able to find a source to do this that has been used by the surrounding communities for a couple of years. And this is a no cost to the township, no cost to the residents, appears to have no downside risk. So it's worth trying. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. So
Okay,
I'll just,
was that the presentation?
yeah, no. So I do have a few slides, but so just to give you a little summary, a little bit of background. So Simple Recycling offers free curbside collection of, you can't hear me? Can we take it out? Simple Recycling offers free curbside collection of soft recyclables, such as clothing, linens, stuffed animals, and even shoes and handbags. Our collection would be weekly, and they would pick up on the same schedule as our normal trash collection. Simple Recycling handles all the marketing and all the customer service, so none of that comes onto the township. The only thing the township would need to do is to provide educational and contact information on our website. We are also hoping that we could get a collection container at our DPW facility as well for drop-offs. We have a potential to earn $20 a ton. And just to give you a little idea, Canton started this service in November.
What slide do you want me on?
Oh, I'm sorry, slide 2.
This one?
Yep, you're still good. Mhm.
Okay, just tell me when you want me to change
Okay,
it.
okay. So Canton started this service back in November of 2016, and they've been averaging about $112 a month. So it's not going to make us rich, but, okay, so then the third slide talks a little bit about what happens to the goods once they're collected. So Simple Recycling, their main customer is thrift stores, like Value World. So they sell their goods there, and at that point, they're weighted and sorted. About 10 to 20% of those goods can be placed on the sales floor. And then there's about 80% that cannot be resold in the United States. So those end up getting sold to exporters who will sell them to third world countries. Or they'll sell them to producers that will break it down for the raw material. And a lot of that raw material gets made into automobile insulation, stuffing for animal beds and sleeping bags. They even use the sole of the shoes to become paving material. So it gets used for lots of things. The next slide is just an example of a brochure that would be sent out. The next couple slides is an example of a brochure that will be sent out to the residents when they launch the program. And then the last slide is an example of a postcard kind of announcing the program. So that's it in a nutshell. If anybody has questions.
I think it's awesome.
Sarah, how many
We're going
calls?
so close all the time, yeah.
How many calls do you get a week about trash or recyclables not getting picked up, or somebody dumping them in the street, or
Missed collections.
Missed
So
collections,
that would be
anything.
GFL missing a collection or a resident putting it out late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today I had 0. So I would say maybe it averages maybe 10 a week at the most. But that's just our normal collection. Yeah.
Sarah, I think the big question for many of us is, this was originally touted as fabric materials, old clothes that are not resellable, towels, sheets, etc. And now, when you look at the contract, it's much more expansive. We're talking about electronics, talking about hardware, kitchen hardware, things like that.
Kitchenware. Mhm.
Yeah, that's, my concern is that, people are not going to put these things in bags. They're going to put them out at the curb, and they're going to expect us to take them, they're going to expect these guys to come and pick it up, and what's going to happen is, if the GFL people arrive first, they're probably going to take it, and the resident will be disappointed. So how would you, how do you respond to that?
Well, the first thing is, when I saw that they would accept TVs and electronics, I did call Simple Recycling, the gentleman that I've been dealing with, and he said that that he would like that to be not part of our collection. They don't want that. So that would maybe be something that we would amend in our contract. Because they do not advertise that they'll pick up electronics. So he said the contract was kind of a template that we're looking at. So, and they will only pick up the items that are in the containers, which are the bags. They won't pick
Yeah,
up
and
anything outside
I
of
know
that.
that that's the plan, but I don't know
Right.
if everybody's going to follow the plan. They're going to, the word will get out that, oh, these people come and pick up old stuff like that, and they're just going to put it out at the curb. And risk that it gets dirty, risk who knows what. I mean, we can all tell stories about people's assumptions on,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
trash pickup.
I think the only solution to that, or the solution would be the education portion of it. So they would need to be very specific on, on the materials that they send out as to what exactly is acceptable and what is not.
So if it did get picked up and gets put in the trash, it would probably do that anyway. So other than disappointment, there's not a risk to having trash laying around. It would get picked up by GFL.
Yes,
but
GFL
people
most
have to
likely
follow
would-
directions and put it in the bag.
Yes, GFL would most likely pick it up because Simple Recycling will only pick up what's in the bags.
Well, Canton has been doing this, and Novi, they've said they have no problems,
They have
right?
not had any issues, and the gentleman at Simple Recycling said 90% of the items that they get are the soft recyclables. It's the linens, it's the towels, it's the clothing, it's that sort of thing. So,
Oh, yeah.
So 80% of what they pick up is not reusable and has to go to an exporter, much like our recyclables today. And we are fighting this new fight of
yeah.
where's our recyclables going? What's to say this 80% isn't going to be in this exact same?
Yep. He said there is still a market for it. There is no, China has never been a customer for, China is our main problem with the other recyclables. But China has never been a customer for recycled textiles. So that's not an issue. It's the third world countries that they're selling to, like Kenya, Tanzania, different places like that.
Also, one of the
So,
sound insulators that's used in most vehicles is made out of, many of you have seen it, like if you lift up your spare tire cover, it's that, looks like lint. That's what it is.
Have we considered the use of a drop box at all instead of doing individual come to the house? I see they do drop boxes in location of the city's choosing. To me, it might make a little bit more sense. Plus, if you really want to take your good items to a local charity, which there's still quite a few around, you can do that.
we actually hope to have both, because I do hope that they will have a drop box at our DPW site.
the plan
But
was to have.
the curbside collection, the thing with the curbside collection is that it makes it easy. So people want something, an easy way to recycle their items and not have them end up in the landfill.
What-
I mean,
how
the
do you
number
get-
one purpose is to not have these items in the landfill.
How do you get the bags?
They will, so when they do their little mailer, they send out a big envelope and they'll send out bags. And then as they collect, they leave.
I don't really see the downside.
And they will do the mailer at their own expense?
Yep, they do the mailing, everything. They have a 1-800 number to answer questions and,
And just to
kind of the
answer
calls.
Bob's question a little bit more on the dumpster or the box,
That
our
was
plan.
scary. That wasn't me.
Okay, the plan would be to have it at the DPW. I'm not in favor of having these boxes or dumpsters in parking lots or anything like that. Those are very unsightly. People do not use them for their intended purpose. People will leave
We have one
debris.
today at Pioneer Middle School, right?
Yeah, and they will leave, but that's on school district property, and
Yeah.
they've chosen to do that. So, and as you know, we have very little jurisdiction over schools.
And probably we would take things away from them by doing our own program.
Who's them?
The dumpster that's
Whoever
at Pioneer.
collects Pioneer Middle School
Pioneer
shoes, and
They only take paper and magazines.
I thought they did shoes, and they had some other things I thought it was available in there. But
I suspect it may be some fundraiser for the school. Maybe they get a percentage.
So this way you have personal choice. You could take it to Salvation Army, drive it over there. You can take it to Pioneer Middle School if they take it, or you can put it out at your curb, or you can put it out at the DPW. Every box is checked on this proposal.
one you get a tax donation for, and,
With the new tax law,
well, you still get a tax
90,
donation.
no, you don't. 90% of the people are not itemizing anymore.
But it's still your choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your
that's right.
choice.
I mean,
It's a choice.
if you gave me some bags, I guarantee you they would be filled every week in our house.
Okay, so can we make this contract subject to final approval by the township attorney so that we can eliminate these other electronic and like jewelry and stuff? I mean, do we really, is that stuff that we want in these bags? Sarah?
Well, those are items, though, that
Okay,
can
I
be,
mean-
well, no, but I mean, that can be resold at the thrift stores, you know.
Yeah,
that-
all right. I'm just asking.
But I can definitely see the electronics and the TVs and.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
would
I
be
think there's a
big-
few things we can eliminate from that. It's just that one
Yeah.
paragraph.
Well, like white goods, or well, no, brown goods, which is like a toaster. Or a toaster oven. We should allow that. They say they do.
They say they do. I mean, if you could put it in the bag and drag it out to the curb.
If they don't take it, they just recycle it anyway, and it goes to the landfill with all the other recycled stuff. Won't matter.
For a small fee. Yeah.
Or they, yeah.
But we make
free.
$100 a month.
No, we're joking.
I'm not joking about some of that.
Okay.
We make $100 a month.
Any other, Jack, you got anything?
So you want a motion and you want,
Yes, I do.
it should say, we have to delete, or subject to approval.
I would remove the word textiles from the resolution, and at the end, I would say, subject to final approval by the township attorney.
Find it. Okay. I move to approve Resolution 219-03-12-25, authorizing the township supervisor to execute an agreement with Simple Recycling for the curbside collection of soft recyclable,
Yeah, that's right, because they have a very broad
okay,
definition of it.
soft recyclables for an initial term of 4 years, subject to final approval of the contract by the township attorney.
Okay, motion's been made by trustee Kermy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Dorshevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes?
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
No.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Okay. Next is item F2. This is the OPEB minimum trust funding schedule. Mark Clinton.
So there are actually two resolutions that make up this. The second resolution is the actual corrective action plan that we have to submit with the state. In order for me to submit that, first I have to get approved the corrective action plan. So this first resolution is the corrective action plan itself. Let me give you just a very brief recap of where we've been. You know, there's a new Public Act 202, which requires more stringent levels of funding and more stringent oversight for your retiree health care and pensions. So we filed the very first mandatory retirement system annual report back in July of 2018. And as expected, it came back that our pension was adequately funded, but our health care was 0% funded and therefore below the threshold of 40%. So the next step at that point was to file a waiver, basically saying, hey, these are things that we already have in place, so give us a break. They came back and said, no, your waiver was denied, so now the next step is to file this corrective action plan within 180 days. So in order to do that, you have to, in order for them to approve your corrective action plan, you have to show how you're going to hit this 40% funding level within a reasonable amount of time. I met with the Municipal Stability Board several weeks ago and discussed what my tentative corrective action plan was. They gave me a verbal approval. They said no guarantees, but that certainly sounds reasonable and something that the Municipal Board would strongly consider. Then I met with the actuaries, our actuarial firms of Ross and Watkins, and they confirmed the fact that this plan would get us to the 40% funding level by the year 2035, which is within the reasonable time frame of roughly 20 years that the folks at the state provided with me. So Bob, if you could move to the spreadsheet. Keep going down. Yes. So anyway, those things that Bob just passed, that is just the actuarial analysis that shows that this funding recommendation will get us to the 40% funding level by 2035. Then if you can keep going, Bob, with the one big round, with the big circle around the numbers. So here is my recommendation. Here is the funding plan that I'd like you to consider for approval. It shows that in the year 2019, this year, we set aside $1.2 million in the trust fund. That has already been approved. We talked about that several months ago. That is already in the 2019 budget. I'm recommending $1 million in 2020 and then $250,000 for the next 4 years after that. This spreadsheet just shows you the millage increase that was approved by the voters back in November. It shows you the additional funds that will bring in, and then the use of those funds, the pensions, the OPEB payments, the pay-as-you-go, the increased salaries, the capital. This intent of this spreadsheet is to demonstrate that we can afford to put this additional funding aside and still have a little bit of surplus left over within the next 6 years. It will get us to the 40% funding level by the year 2035. And I intentionally constructed it this way to make sure that the next board had to feel a little bit of the pain as well, that we didn't fund the entire thing within the next 2 years. That was a little bit of my thought process there as well. So that's my corrective action plan. Any thoughts, comments?
Yeah, could
questions?
you expand on that, what you just said? The next board would have to feel some of the pain. What do you mean?
Well, the next board would have to apply at a minimum $250,000 per year for the 4 years of their term.
That sounds like less pain than 1.2 million and 1 million.
Yeah, but it's partially offset by the pay-as-you-go number goes up a little bit, right?
Well, yeah, but that's the pay-as-you-go number is the bill that we're going to be getting from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So they're going to have to pay that anyhow.
So that bill, when do you, I'm sorry, Jack.
Well, let me just finish.
Go ahead.
Another way of saying that is you're not tying their hands as much as we're committing in 19 and 20 out of the millage.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You can see in the first couple of years, we've got more of that millage money to work with. But then as time goes on, the OPEB goes up, the pension goes up. They will have less and less money to work with as part of that increased millage.
Okay, when would the township start drawing from the trust fund to pay the premiums? What year? What's the assumption in here?
There is no assumption. Once you can either, if you can afford to pay as a pay-as-you-go model, you can leave it in the trust fund and let that money continue to grow. Or if you need that money from the trust fund because you don't have adequate funds in your current operating budget, then you can start to draw from the trust fund. It is set aside, and it's basically considered as another bank account that you can use at any point in time to pay those liabilities off.
So we have the ability to pay as we go and fund the trust.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
Yes. What is the investment vehicle and what institution?
So this is MERS, right? This is the thing that we approved when we established the trust fund. It's through MERS, and there are several different funds that you can invest in, and we've already approved, this board has already approved the suggestions that I made for those investments. I can't remember exactly what they were, to tell you the truth.
I think
They were low-risk preservation of principal investment recommendations.
So no equities at all?
No.
I seem to recall that you said when you did make the payments, you would inform the board of doing that and what the investment
funds we were
was. I
putting.
think you made that statement on the record for
I would
us.
be happy to do that.
I knew you would because you said that before, so.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? All right, I move to approve Resolution 2019-03-12-27, which, in accordance with Public Act 202, authorizes the Township Treasurer to submit the attached Corrective Action Plan, Form 5597, to the state's Municipal Stability Board no later than May 20th, 2018,
Sorry, you
2019.
got the wrong one.
I got the wrong one?
Six.
That's the corrective action plan.
That's,
got
you
it.
want the other one?
I went through all of that for nothing?
Yes.
But it was well presented. You can do it next time.
It was lyrical. Oh,
You
wait a minute,
withdraw
so which
your-
one am I looking at?
Do you withdraw your motion?
Not yet.
It ends in a 26. Is that the one you're doing?
Correct, yeah.
This one.
Would you like to restate it?
Agenda's
All
all
right, let me
goofed
do
up.
this one, and you can do the next one.
Hold on, yeah. Go ahead, do it.
All right. I move to approve Resolution 2019-03-12-26, which mandates that the Township Treasurer shall transfer into the Township's OPEB Trust Fund Planned ID 658970 at a minimum the amounts indicated in the attached funding schedule.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Treasurer Clinton, seconded by Clerk Forba. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Forba. Yes. Motion carries.
Now, before we move on, so just so I'm clear, this money is coming out of the increased millage.
The incremental millage fund, correct. That spreadsheet that I just showed demonstrates how the incremental millage funds will be used.
But for that, we might not be able to do this.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, we would not have been able to do it.
Additionally, if the renewal millage doesn't pass, that may be difficult also in 2 years.
Correct.
When will the next payment be deposited?
I am going to, I have not deposited the 1.2 million, the initial funding yet. I was waiting for this tax season to be over. I will do that within the next month. And I will let you know, Jack, exactly when it went and where it went.
I think the whole board you will let know, won't you?
So after that, then in 2020, about what month will it be deposited?
My suggestion would be always do this in the month of March after tax season is over. We've collected all of our tax revenues.
Not make multiple payments because you do lose the time value of money if you versus doing it throughout the year. So it depends. If interest rates went to 20% like they were in 1982, you might want to do it faster.
Right, correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, this next resolution.
So hold on, now we're moving on to item F3 now. So this is
Corrective action
F3.
plan.
So as part of Public Act 202, you have to submit the corrective action plan, and it has to be approved by the board. We just discussed the corrective action plan, and the document in this resolution references this funding schedule that we just talked about. So this is the document that I have to submit to the state of Michigan and requires the board's approval.
Okay, any comments or questions from the board, from the public? I've rehearsed this very well, so you got to let me do it. I move to approve Resolution 2019-03-12-27, which, in accordance with Public Act 202, authorizes the Township Treasurer to submit the attached corrective action plan, Form 5597, to the state's Municipal Stability Board no later than May 20th, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yep.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I believe Mr. Lalonde is here.
Yep.
Is that you?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Chief, would you mind if we can I want to get him on his way. Not that your presentation is going to be fascinating to him, but we do have Darren Lalonde with us tonight. He just came from the Chamber Business Awards, and he is our new recommended appointment to the Downtown Development Authority and the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. His resume is in your agenda pack, and he is here tonight to answer any questions that you may have. But are any questions or comments from the board?
Yes.
Yes.
We did have a representative from the new bank who moved to a different job as part of the DDA. And it's the same company. Correct.
Same company, well, actually, they're under different ownership now,
yeah.
but it is still a financial institution.
Correct.
The other gentleman who was originally appointed was moved out as part of that acquisition.
Correct.
All right, any other comments or questions from the board or from the public? Yes, sir.
I move to approve Resolution 2019-03-12-29, authorizing the appointment of Mr. Darren Lalonde to the Downtown Development Authority / Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for a term ending January 31, 2023.
Motion's made by Trustee Kermy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
I have a question.
Yes.
The Brownfield,
Yeah,
they're the same, it's the
Yeah.
same people
it's the same entity. Yeah.
throughout the township?
Yes.
All right.
Except for the area that we carved out on
The MIDI.
on MITC on 5 Mile. Yeah. Okay, take the roll, sir, when you're ready.
Mr. Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Lalonde.
Next is item F4. This is the purchase of the LifePak 15 defibrillator. We're going to test it out tonight, or what?
On me.
On Jerry?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you need a dummy?
I don't think he's kidding.
Come on, Jack.
There's no dummies here.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to stand here in front of you with these two devices, spin them around so the boards can see. Good evening, gentlemen. Tonight we are here to discuss the purchase of a LifePak 15 defibrillator to replace an aging LifePak 12 defibrillator. In short, this was a budgeted item from the budget created last June. Here is the LifePak 12 defibrillator that has been in service since 2008. And here is one of our recently purchased in 2014 LifePak 15 defibrillators. This piece of equipment is used on just about every patient we visit in the township or on mutual aid. We put this on for checking their heart rhythm, checking their blood pressure, checking their SpO2. We can use this device to check for carbon monoxide poisoning. We cannot use this device for that. This device has a increased battery life. It has a much better sunscreen, so this particular device is very difficult to see in the sun. If anybody has a electronic device and have tried to use it outside, you can't really see it well. This device has a alternate screen, a different color, so you can see it in sunlight. The cost of the device is $35,000 with the trade-in of the LifePak 12 device. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. I can show you how they work.
Okay.
I know
any
they work.
Hold on. Yeah, yeah. Any comments or questions by the board?
Are you still going to use the old one too?
No, it's trade-in.
This one is a trade-in. We still will maintain 2 LifePak 12 devices. We keep one of them on engine 1 here, and we will keep the other one on the engine at Station 3 when it arrives, the new one that was just approved.
What happens when that breaks? Do we get a replacement unit or?
Part of the agreement is that they will have a replacement to us within 24 hours. At the current time, we have never had one of these break in the township. I know we ran over HVACs a number of years ago. I think that broke. But one of ours has never broke. They have had some issues where they've had recalls, but they come out and do a software upgrade and fix them relatively quickly. At current time, I can't think of a time we've had one fail on scene.
Where do the used one go?
It goes back to the manufacturer. I don't know what they do with it after that. They might, they have a website that they sell to called AED Superstore. They do sell refurbished units. So perhaps they'll look at this unit, refurbish it, and resell it. I imagine it's based on the condition of each unit.
So they look somewhat similar, but the 12, which is the one on your left, our right, does seem to be more old school design.
More seasoned, yes, yes.
So what's the major difference between the two?
The algorithms inside of it are improved in the LifePak 15. It has a much better battery, almost double the battery capacity. The other big advantage is this one you plug into a computer by serial port. Now, I don't know if you guys are big computer guys, but I doubt if you've bought a computer in the last 5 years, it has one on it. So we can't even plug this into some of the new computers we buy. With that being said, we have, this one also comes with a modem right here that can contact the hospital and can send data over the internet.
Well, that's a big difference. So we're buying one. Where is that going to go?
The one we buy will go on Rescue 2, which is at the Lake Point station. This LifePak 15 is Station 1's here, and we have one at Station 3 on the west end of town already.
So we have two. This is the third one.
That's correct.
One for each station.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if you guys recall, in 2016, we bought 6 automatic external defibrillators for around Township Hall. Those units work seamlessly with these units, which is why we purchased that particular type.
Then I have a technical issue. If Trustee Dorshevitz could go to the actual resolution. I'm not sure there's a paragraph in there that's supposed to be in there.
This is it?
No, the next page.
Next page.
Oh.
So there's a paragraph that says the legacy litter retention system.
You are correct. I have one resolution. I pull up the last one, and I missed that line. You are correct.
Yeah, I did that recently with something, so very sympathetic. So if we delete that one, whereas, the rest of the resolution's perfection.
Thank you.
Chief, can you tell me, does this LifePak 15, does this have 2 invasive pressure channels? Which I found was the differentiation between 2 LifePak 15s and a big price difference. I
can't tell you that right now, but I believe as part of the quote, let me look right at the quote, because that will tell me the difference.
On page 98 in the specifications, it talks about invasive pressure.
Oh, yeah, there
but
are huge differences in what options you get on these as far as the price. This particular unit has mono defibrillator, advanced biphasic and manual and AED, color LCD, 100 millimeter printer, non-invasive pacing, metronome, trending, SpO2, NIBP, 12-lead EKG, ETCO2, carbon monoxide, and Bluetooth.
Well, both of the units were priced considerably higher than what your purchase price is, so it made a bigger difference if there were 2 invasive pressure channels, so.
I do not believe there are 2 invasive pressure channels. I believe there are only 1, and I believe that is right here.
Okay.
What's an invasive pressure channel?
It's what, the blood pressure cuff.
Oh,
Oh, come on, why don't you
I
say
believe.
so, Heitman? Come on.
I believe it's the blood
Trying
pressure
to sound
cuff,
really, like, cool.
but I could be mistaken. I don't think it is.
evasive.
Evasive.
I have somebody who may be able to help me. This is Mr. Andrew Savage
From HVA.
from Huron Valley Ambulance, yes.
The invasive line monitors are arterial lines and venous pressure lines. In the hospital, that's more for hospital-to-hospital transfers. We have that on our MICU monitors, our mobile intensive care units. The rest of our fleet has the exact same setup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Anything from the public? Mr. Howard? And Chief, can you repeat the question too?
The question was, how does this communicate to the hospitals? And he said an acronym, HEMS? HEMS. We communicate with the hospitals by radio through HEMS, which is our local medical control authority. This unit has Bluetooth. This one does not, for communicating with local devices, but it also has a modem that uses a Verizon card, just like you would buy and put in your computer. That attaches to the side right here, and that's how it communicates, just through the internet. It sends the data up into the cloud, it's stored in the cloud, and then it can be captured either by our computer program, which we use Apple iPads, or the hospital can capture it and keep it with that patient through the entire course of their treatment. Yes, we can send, there's a button right on the device that says transmit. You just hit the transmit button and it sends whatever's going on with that patient up into the cloud at that moment. It's using the cell system. It is using the cell system, yes, sir.
So how does the hospital get to it then?
So the hospital, we put it up into what's called LifeNet, which is a proprietary thing of physio control. Now, once it gets into the LifeNet cloud, then the other software manufacturers connect to that data and pull it out and send it to their respective systems. Interestingly enough, right now, all of the big hospitals are looking at a system with, I believe, ESO, which will better track all of the different systems out there, from private EMS to fire departments, on all the different services. But the hospitals haven't agreed yet on what system they want to use. Macomb County is kind of leading this, and I believe Macomb County is all good. But as you know, hospitals don't go by counties. You know, you have Beaumont in Macomb County, you have a Beaumont in Oakland County, you have a Beaumont in Wayne County. So, and I think Beaumont has already signed up for this, but Henry Ford hasn't necessarily signed up. The Providences are still trying to work on this. So once all that's done, this will be an all-encompassing system that no matter what system you use, they'll all talk to each other and send that patient data. But at the very least, we have printers in our ambulances, and we'll print it out if we have to.
How soon will you be able to obtain this after the documents are signed, assuming this resolution's approved?
I'm assuming net 30, which is on the 30 days.
You got a credit card, you can just have that one.
There you go.
Okay.
The limit is a little lower than 35,000, I think, so.
Okay, anything else from the board on this item? Anything from the public else? Anything else? Okay. I'm looking for a motion then.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk.
I move to approve Resolution 2019-03-12-28, authorizing the purchase of a LifePak 15 monitor defibrillator from Physio Controls, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $35,057.40, and to authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign all required documents for this purchase.
Thank you. Motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very
thank you.
much. Thank you, Chief. Cindy Kushner is here, and so we're going to move on to item F6. This is the continuation of the 2019 Annual Water and Sewer Fund Budget. Okay. Cindy, why don't you, I don't know which one you want to use, so.
Thank you.
So why don't we do this? Let's just start at the top,
Okay.
and
All right. Let me
let's
get
just start at the top.
situated here. Okay. All right, the budget is up there, and I hope all the board members received their handout of assumptions and explanations. To maybe, I wanted to help clarify some of these big swings in the numbers before we presented this evening. So with that said, if you're on page
108.
236A. Oh, we don't have the, okay. So we're on the one with the revenue. Okay, that's where we need to be.
That's the right page?
Yes.
108.
Could you go up just a little bit? Yeah, there you go. Okay. 108, I think it is 108.
108.
What do you,
108.
what category?
You want revenue?
Revenues.
Revenues, I was on
108.
revenues.
Yep, the last line, okay, and then there's a couple lines after that. Yep, right, yep, one more, go up a little bit. Okay, nope, one more. There you go.
Ah, sorry.
That's
I thought
okay.
I had the total. Sorry about that.
All right, you're okay. So if you look at our projected 2018 revenues, which is in the second column from the end, 14,806,000, and in 2019 we're budgeting 14,738,000. And those numbers are pretty close to each other. 2019 is expected to be about $68,000 lower. But the thing to note in this 2019 budget is even though the revenue numbers end up coming in close, the composition of those numbers changes dramatically. First of all, on the, what is it, fourth line from the bottom, right there, we're down one.
Revenue.
You see in 2018, we had $684,000 of SAW grant revenue, which is going away in 2019. So we lose that, however, we gain almost all of it back by a couple of big items here. And the first being water sales, the second sewer sales, and benefit charges. So as I put in the handout, we're budgeting water units to be higher than the actual units that we billed for in 2018. And we've also been made aware of a 3% water increase from GLWA. Now, again, this is to go over the budget and talk about the budget. This is not where we're going to set rates. However, my budget does assume that we increase rates by 3%, which is the would be passing on the cost from GLWA. So our sewer and water, or our sewer generally goes in line with our water. It's usually 140% of water. So that's how that budget number came to be. And then the next biggest number is the benefit charges, which is account 592-100-438. It's third from the bottom under operating revenue. We thought we'd have a much better year in 2018. However, that's all due to development, and it didn't transpire, so we think more of that then is going to fall into 2019. So basically, the story of revenue in 2019 is going to be the loss of the SAW revenue, made up by the increase in water and sewer billing revenue and increased benefit charges due to development.
Okay, the 15% rate increase for sewage disposal, have you calculated that in the revenue?
Indirectly, yes.
That's a big number, 15%.
Actually, I got that number from Watua, and they agree that it's a big number. They were behind in their budget process, or they didn't have all their information in at the time they released the number, so they guessed conservatively, and on the conservative side, it would be a 15% increase. They don't think it's going to be that high, but they erred on the side of being conservative.
So that's baked into you've increased the revenue for that 15%. Our cost goes up 15% and the revenue goes up 15%? Or we didn't put it in the revenue side?
It's indirectly in the revenue side because generally it's a 140% increase. And that 140% in addition to the water revenue is based on a lot of factors, and including that is recovering our charges from Watua.
All right, so you're confident we've covered it. I don't completely understand it, but all right.
Okay.
That's the sewage disposal 1.4 times the water sales. So you've
Historically, that's what it runs.
The 15% increase is baked into that because we base it off the water sales.
Correct.
All right, I got it.
So it's indirect.
On the benefit charges, historically, in 16, it was almost 1.5 million, right? 1.46.
Yep.
Then it goes down in 17 to 578,000. That's a big swing. We budgeted $1 million, and we expect to be about 300,000. So that's not exactly precision engineering.
Patrick could probably address that.
If I can comment, the reason is the hotel development. Back in 2016, we had the development of the hotel on Beck Road, the Hilton, I believe.
Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn.
Did we also have LA Fitness that year, or was that in 15? You know, in 16 we might have had LA Fitness. Which
That
All right, well,
played a role, too.
Patrick was interrupted, so could you finish your comment?
Yeah, it's mostly due with the development of the hotels. Now, last year, we were hoping the Beck Road Hotel would be further along, and so now we're suspecting that it might be later this year.
So it's still on the drawing board, the Beck Road Hotel?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yes.
Cindy, question on penalties. We had an uphill trend here for the last couple of years, and now we're taking a 43% reduction this year in penalties. Are we doing something better, or somebody else is doing something better?
That's just a guess.
Is that what's on the tax roll, or that's the late fee?
That amount is what is left over. No, let me take it back. Those are people who pay late, and as a result get hit with 5% penalty.
Wow. So what you collect from the tax roll is which line? We have about 300,000 in there a year.
Is that all built into the same line, Cindy?
Yeah.
Is that all in penalties?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can get back with us on that once you sort it out. Just tell us.
So what's the
I want to make
specific
sure we're
question?
accounting for what we get from the tax roll. When people are super
Yeah.
delinquent and it ends up as a lien on their property, and we
Right.
collect it maybe
Yep.
when they feel like paying their taxes or when they sell the property, or it's foreclosed.
Yeah, I'll double check, but I think that's what's in there.
That's what's in
I think it's included. Let me double check.
the 160,000?
Yeah.
That does seem a little low. And I put together these revenue projections. It has to be 3 months ago now, and I can't remember what my reasoning was or my assumptions were, to tell you the truth. That does seem low. Probably in the 275 range is probably more realistic.
You want to change it tonight?
That's kind of risky. Why don't you wait? Can we just make it?
Again, we can do a budget amendment. We're in March. We're almost to the end of the first quarter. We can also, do a budget amendment at the end of the quarter after we see what's going on. And you have to remember, when we did the revenue projections, we were back in December. And the reason you see the updated activity in 2018 is because we're in March. And all of those numbers have been updated from the numbers we were using when we originally started doing the budget. So we can look at that and see if it perhaps should be higher, and make sure that the tax roll penalties are rolling into that also.
Okay. Anything else? What, do you want to continue, or you want to take questions, Cindy, or what? You want to keep
Oh,
going?
I was going to, okay, if we're done with revenue. Okay, the next page then, 109, we're talking about our G&A expenses, which are going down significantly, and that is due primarily to not having SAW grant expenses anymore. And that item is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up from the bottom, SAW grant expenses. In 2018, it looks like we're going to come in at about $900,000, and obviously we're not going to have any in 2019. So this expense category is going down by about $566,000 because the $900,000, but then we are going up in certain areas. Equipment is going up $42,000. Consulting services is going up $92,000. Meters are going up $80,000. And I put those reasons on the handout that I sent you, the reason all those things are going up. I don't know if you want me to go through all of them specifically, or you just want to read them over on your sheet.
You're talking about Department 172?
Department 172, General Administrator.
Does the board have any questions about that particular handout, or at this time?
Computer services looks like it's going up quite a bit. Is there something?
Yep. There's new licenses for CityWorks, a new Dig Smart software.
Okay,
and
thank you.
some-
Does this budget still assume the part-time GIS person?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
I'll want to talk about that, but 291, are you going to that next, or?
I'm going to that next. As soon as you are finished with 172, we could go to 291.
Okay.
All right, 291 is our transmission and distribution category. And we see that is going down slightly from the prior year. And that's mostly because the manhole project is almost complete. And we did a lot of cleaning and flushing of the system in 2018 that we just have a little carryover for 2019 to finish. And, but basically the things that are going up in this category are, what are we doing? Oh, maintenance of mains. There always seems to be something that happens or breaks in the mains, so that's just Patrick's best estimate. We're going to, our stormwater inspection is increasing $72,000, and that's primarily for our water permit, or clean water, I know our stormwater permit
That is for the proposed clean out of the
of the
DPW
yard.
yard.
Right.
Yes.
And that's part of the
The stormwater
stormwater permit? or-
Inspecting clean
Okay.
account.
So of that 72,000, 60,000 of it is to clean up the yard.
And that's to avoid runoff,
Off in-
to be in compliance with DEQ.
DEQ or,
Yes, that's part of it. It's also to make room for our trucks, the stockpiles that are out there.
Cindy, have you factored in any pay raises?
yes, for non-union personnel, no, for union personnel, 2.5% estimate. There have been no increases for non-union personnel.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on Department 291?
Fire hydrant painting, which I'd like to delete. I'm sure it's not a lot of money, but it isn't something you have to do every year. We were, in my opinion, overdoing it because it was a patronage job for the children of politically active residents. What are we doing this year?
Patrick, you want to take that?
Well, that's true. We always do, after we flush and inspect the hydrants in the fall and the spring, we do make note of those hydrants that need painting. And it is for aesthetics. You know, believe it or not,
They don't corrode.
It's what the board wants. You know, it's always been a directive to you know, it's a reflection on the DPW to have red fire hydrants and not have them go black. And it's aesthetics, and it's not a priority by any means. We typically have a seasonal do them when there is some lag between the work. It's not a priority by any means, but we do, as part of the hydrant inspection records, we do track the ones that are in need of painting. We don't paint every one. We just paint those that are in need of painting.
How much do we spend on that every year?
Maintenance of hydrants.
How much we spend on it? It's nominal. It would be under the maintenance of hydrants account.
22,500.
22,000.
But the maintenance of hydrants, if you
It's
go
other
into that
things.
account,
Everything?
you'll never see painting.
934.
I mean,
It's not all painting.
yeah, that's mostly parts and replacement of hydrants and actual.
I'd like to see us back off on it because
I'd like to-
corrosion is an issue. Yeah, they do get moldy sometimes, but we've been going crazy for 10 years on painting fire hydrants. So.
Chief, you want to comment on that?
I do, actually. The painting of, if you go down into Hines Park, there are fire hydrants in Hines Park that have not been painted in years. I will tell you right now that you'll have a hard time finding them because when the rust happens on them, they really blend in well. And the nice bright red painted fire hydrants are easier for firefighters to see during an emergency, especially when there's a big building on fire nearby that kind of grabs our attention. So the painted hydrants are helpful. I'm not saying that they have to be as arduous as maybe it was perceived they were done in the past, but I think we do need to keep them looking good so that we can notice them.
But
How
most
many-
of that budget, as
How many
Patrick pointed.
hydrants do we have?
We have, I want to say 4,000 fire hydrants. But we're not on a painting schedule where we're trying to paint 4,000 in 3 years. We're just painting as an as-needed basis.
I
Yeah,
understand.
I mean, this is fire hydrant maintenance, which is
Maintenance.
the equipment, the valves, the
Correct.
ring, the
So we
O-rings
have-
and all that
And I
stuff.
If
imagine
we
if
have
you paint them, you
4,000
prevent
and
rust and corrosion.
we have 4,000 fire hydrants and we spend $22,000. We're averaging
no, it's-
$5 per
Yeah,
hydrant.
right.
We do not spend anywhere near $20,000 on painting of hydrants.
I know,
I'll be
I'm
surprised
saying
if we painted.
No, it's
all the
under
maintenance,
maintenance.
including the paid painting, we're averaging $5 per hydrant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's a suggestion for an
Not a lot of
opportunity
money.
because I'd like to see the money used
Well, you know what,
somewhere else.
I'll go through in an inquiry of the account and see about, I'll estimate the approximate cost that we spent on painting.
Well, since we're in the spring, what you do, or what your plan is, will affect hiring of seasonal labor, which has been traditionally, like I said, the place where people ended up, where you could sit there with a paint and brush for 8 hours a day and get paid $13 an hour.
I really think that, Patrick, if you want to defend the practice, I believe really what we're talking about here is the personnel who would be making the physical improvements to replace worn-out equipment on a fire hydrant. Isn't that the case?
Yes, if I think I know what you said. Yeah.
It's my leading question of the night, yes.
Yeah, again, it doesn't, we're not, honestly, I don't think we spend much time at all on it last year. I really don't. It's a seasonal employee when they not on a specific project, and I sincerely disagree with the amount of time and effort we're spending just painting hydrants. It's not happening like that.
All right.
Things have changed since we have different people running the show then. But it used to be a source of a lot of artificial labor.
Okay. Correct. All right. Any other questions on this item?
On 291, when you're ready,
Yes.
Yeah, we're on
ready.
291.
Pardon?
Yep, we're on 291.
I want to advocate for a full-time GIS person. I handed out something that gives some background. We'd have to add $30,000 to this budget. This budget is not coming out of taxpayers' pockets directly in a tax levy. It's rates. So we have the money to do it. This is a synergistic thing. It will help all of the departments in the township. And we have a backup plan in there that if the person is underemployed, WATUA or other departments can use them more, but we don't anticipate that they will be. I'd like to give it a try because infrastructure is a important thing that touches every one of us every day. And having a good documentation, being able to respond effectively to our misdig requirements without having to use a $100 an hour engineering company that we have on board that handles the off hours and things like that. I see some synergies and some efficiencies, and I urge you to consider adding $30,000 to hire a full-time GIS person. Let's talk about it.
Sure, let's talk about it. My concern is that this is being done without a full understanding of the GIS needs of every department at Township Hall. I think it's premature to hire a full-timer. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I do not want to create the overhead and the obligation and the union issues that are going to arise with hiring a full-time staffer for a job that is still largely undefined. We have survived with a part-time GIS person for many years who was a college student. I think we can find another part-timer to at least take us to the next level and work with us on a comprehensive plan of what our GIS needs are for the township. At the executive level of the township, we know that the assessor's office has extreme GIS needs right now. Police and fire need it. The clerk's office needs it. I'd like to get a better handle on what is it that we're looking for before we hire a full-timer who still does not have a well-defined job other than being given assignments by the DPW. I think we should take this in steps. We can always come back and amend the budget, but I think it's premature to adopt a full-timer with all of the overhead and benefits that are going to be attended to that, and especially since we in management, we in the executive branch of the township do not fully understand yet what all of our GIS needs are for the next several years.
Good. Thanks for that info. I think you've got some good points, but having a full-timer will define some of those more carefully because they're knowledgeable. A part-timer may not be as committed to it. And we also had a $100,000 plus employee in here who has retired in the last year and a half. So we have an offset.
Well, since this full-time GIS person in Canton resides in the IT department, would you consider this going to our IT department and letting them reside there?
That's up to Kurt, but my judgment is that an IT person, the current IT person we have, is not trained in this. But they can work in the IT department. I don't care where they work, as long as my judgment is, and I think Patrick's judgment is, initially, most of the work will be in water and sewer.
Well, Patrick answered the question last time we asked and said he wasn't willing to share this person if it was in his group. So I'm looking to say, all right, which group would be less political to put it in that says, okay, I don't own this, do a good job in finding out all of our needs for GIS.
Well,
I agree, the clerk certainly needs it, and the assessor said the same thing all the time, so.
So where we put them in the organization, also, I see this person, I wouldn't hire this person as a bargaining unit person. It's a special situation that it should not be in the union.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to have, this person has to have ultimate flexibility to work anywhere in any department as the need arises. You don't want them in a bargaining unit because that flexibility then will be gone.
Well, I think the union would disagree with that. I mean, this is not a confidential employee. This person is not dealing with confidential information, HR-type information. I suspect that if this person were to be hired full-time, that we would definitely be approached by the union, and I believe that they would make a demand that this person be rolled into the TPOAM.
Wow.
Do we currently have a part-time GIS person?
No.
No, we do not.
But this budget provides for that.
It does. The one thing that has changed now is the implementation of CityWorks, which solely relies on the GIS. We need an administrator, in my opinion, to make sure that's up and running and stays up and running.
The question of what department this person resides in, I don't know enough about this, but it seems like every department can share in the data that this person inputs into the system.
One would hope.
Yeah, but I don't know if this person would have different objectives based upon what department they resided in. At the end of the day, they're updating a system where the data would benefit multiple departments. To me, it seems like the compromise would be, let's add the additional money into the budget. Let's better define what this person would do, and let's go see what we can find. It might be a challenge to find a part-time person with this skill level, as opposed to a full-time person.
I don't think you're going to find.
Might be.
You will find a more experienced retiree, somebody who's later in their career that wouldn't mind doing it part-time. You know, certainly finding the college kid that can want to do this part-time would be, you know.
You think
Very
someone
different.
our age is going to have this training?
Yeah, that was
I didn't say real old, but
I'm not sure this is technology that the older generation would truly understand.
I really object to all this ageism that's going on up here as the oldest member of this board, and I put my hand down and say,
You are the
enough
oldest.
of this emphasis on old people, all right? But to go back to the treasurer's suggestion, I think that's a very good suggestion. Let's add the money into the budget. Doesn't mean necessarily we move tomorrow and hire somebody, but we can go through the process then of trying to evaluate these needs, figure out how to operate this, and make the best decision
And
back
Jack,
to the board and make that recommendation.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I would like it if we could have, I hate task forces and stuff like that, but this might be a time when we would need to bring in other departments to help us assess what our GIS needs are for the years ahead. I can tell you from the assessor's office alone, they are in dire need of updated GIS maps for tax purposes.
Definitely.
They've pegged they went out and polled for consultants, and they had a consultant who could do it for $150,000. And I'm not saying that I would agree to that, but it's an example of the level of work that needs to be done just in that one department. And I know police and fire need it too. We're embarking on census now for 2020. That's all data driven. The clerk's going to need it now for all of the new changes in election law. So I'd like to approach this a little slowly, maybe over the next couple months. Let's budget for the part-timer, but let's also commit as a township to work with all of the departments to come up with a more comprehensive GIS strategy. This person may end up being housed in DPW. He or she may be ending up in IT. But I think there's a lot more research that we have to do on what the needs are going to be overall in the township.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does this, if it's still part-time, does that mean that DPW can go out and get a part-time GIS person?
Yeah. And let's see what the market, let's see who's out there. We've had a lot of success in the last couple of years with part-timers. We have been able to find people who have come to us who are transitioning into a different lifestyle, and they come to the table with great backgrounds and great training and history, but they don't want to be working full time anymore. So let's test the waters and see what's out there. In the meantime, while we're doing that, let's also find out exactly what all of our GIS needs are going forward. I just think that's the prudent thing to do, because it's a lot easier to transition up and hire somebody full-time than to take a full-timer who maybe doesn't have a lot to do, and we run into mission creep, right? Again, when we have a full-timer who now we're trying to find work for that person to do, and we've seen that too many times in the township, and I'd hate to go back to something like that.
Could we return to this then at
We can always do budget adjustments, sure.
Well, but in terms of the GIS needs, comprehensive needs idea, could we return to this at the May or June study sessions? That's
May may be a little early, but...
well, it's 2 to 3 months.
It's not,
You're saying it's really a big deal.
yeah, May or June. I mean, you said May or June, so we'll work within that time frame.
Great.
Or June.
Well, do we ask this person once they're hired to go to all the other areas and find out what their needs are?
The part-timer?
Yeah.
No, that part-timer is in DPW doing the whatever.
But I have other needs that are just as pressing as the DPW needs.
I think we have to, first of all, poll a lot of the department heads and find out. We know right now that we have needs in virtually every department. They know what a lot of these department heads know what they're looking for.
So does it make sense to do 2 part-timers? No. One full-timer that can cover the entire building's worth of activities.
Maybe. I don't know if we need that person yet.
Well, yeah, but somebody has to ask assessor's office, clerk's office, what are your needs?
We already know the assessor's needs, and it's been
Yeah,
quantified.
We have the ability to do that.
Okay. Well, it looks like we've done it. Patrick's done a good job on his piece. We can do
I
the
think that
rest.
was that his piece or Chuck's or what? Who done
It was mute. We worked together on it.
Everything on here looks to be Chuck's and Pat's, so.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
Well,
You have anything else here on
no,
441?
that's the meat of the budget.
42.
The rest is depreciation, interest on the debt.
When would we look at rates?
Summer?
Generally, we've been doing it in the summer.
Well, you can't if you assumed here June. Which June? June 1 or June 30? In the assumptions, it says June, the increases. So if you want them, if you wait till July, you won't put them in place till September.
The water rates assume that the rates go up 3% in July 1st.
Yeah, so we used a blended rate to calculate the revenue.
But we're not voting on water rates tonight.
No, that's,
No.
But coming back for rates, we probably need to do it a little earlier than we have in the past. Maybe it'd be great if it would coincide with July 1.
That's fine with me. I know most of our neighbors do it ahead of have been doing it ahead of us. One of the things, though, in our defense is the last couple of years we've had to take a deeper dive into the water rates because we were not because they had been fluctuating so much up and down for frankly for political reasons and not really to provide cost of service. They were done to look good, and so we had to raise rates when we first started. And the objective for the next several years is to have it stable. Much like the Great Lakes Water Authority, their rates never go down, but they're always within that 3 to 4% range.
So if we're running a surplus, why are we assuming that we're going to raise rates 3%? It's another raise on top of a raise.
No, that's
The surplus will get eaten up if you don't maintain the rate.
okay. Cindy, go.
that's correct, Chuck. Another thing is we have to make sure that we now start putting money away for the results of the capital improvement plan from the SAW grant. We've not done that either. That's another discussion we need to have is how much we're going to start putting away for that. And by that, I mean, taking it out of cash and restricting it for no other use. So you need to keep active on this. You need to keep, on top of it to at least try to, combat any increases you get from the outside. Maybe it doesn't have to be percent for percent, but in my opinion, you really have to not get too far behind those.
Now, the good news is the Watua rates are not what they used to be. So, because now that we're out of the Wayne County Detroit system,
right?
Those that cost has gone down for us. Although Watua is building up their surplus to
Because
anticipate
now they charge us.
their SAW grant
Right.
or their infrastructure needs over the next 20 years. We have to do the same thing. I mean, we let that number go down way too much, and we're trying to get back on an even keel now.
And the other thing you need to think about is we still have outstanding debt.
We also have debt, right?
Right, so you want to make sure your rates
We
cover all
really
your
haven't
debt.
had, Bob, in 2016, rates went down 5%. In 2017, they went up 8%. And in 2018, they stayed even. So over 3 years, they've gone up a total of 3%.
I know, but we've just passed a huge millage.
It's irrelevant.
Enormous
Those are
millage.
two different things.
They're different financial buckets.
I know I'm in different buckets, but,
For a homeowner, you're right, it is the same bucket, but
it's more
it is a
cash
separate.
coming out of my pocket as a
So-
resident.
Yeah.
Since we're not setting rates tonight, maybe we could look at this more down the road.
It's fine.
Okay,
Just letting my position be known.
thank you. Anything else, Cindy, that you'd like to share with us on this?
No, just that, so then at the end of 2019, we, anticipate net position or i.e. fund balance of about $61 million at the end of 2019 based on this budget.
Now, that's just not some pot of money sitting in a bank someplace.
Oh, no. Unlike the general fund and special revenue funds that we're used to looking at fund balance and saying, oh, that's approximately how much cash I have in the bank, this is totally different. This is an enterprise fund which follows private sector accounting. So that fund balance, or that net position, that's why we call it net position, also includes fixed assets. So in the water and sewer fund, we have tens of millions of dollars in fixed assets. And basically, well, I believe at 12/31, cash in this fund was about 8.9 million out of that 61 million. The bulk of it is fixed assets.
So the cash, there's no cash line in here projected?
No.
Okay, so, but you're thinking it's around 9 million at present status?
Yeah, when I looked at the trial balance, as of 12/31, it was about 8.9 million.
Yeah.
And we still haven't closed to December, but it's probably going to be close to that.
You know, maybe you should do a breakdown of that fund balance number for us like you do with the general budget.
Okay.
Not, you know, it's not urgent, but when 2018 closes up finally, maybe you could break that down for us like you do with the other
That's a
budget.
great idea.
Yeah, because this fund is operated totally different than the general fund, which you're used to looking at.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Yes, page 112, where there's the cathodic corrosion protection. We were getting quotes, it says $30,000. Is that, what's the source of the 30,000 number?
Patrick.
Nobody wanted to quote or something?
Patrick.
The source of that number is from our engineer who did the tank inspection last year, Dixon Engineering.
So do you think have you received any quotes since you've rebid it?
I'm expecting a quote tomorrow, and they asked what the budget was, and I told them the budget was 20,000.
Yeah, that's really strange when you have people quote when they ask you what the budget is, yeah. Okay. So we're going to do that in calendar year 2019?
Yes, and the cathodic protection system should be on the March 26th agenda. Any other questions, comments? Anything from the public? All righty, then I'll be entertaining a motion.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Heitman.
I move to approve Resolution 2019-03-12-30, authorizing the 2019 fiscal year budget for the Charter Township of Plymouth Water and Sewer Funds.
Motion's been made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes.
Trustee Heitman?
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton?
Yes.
Trustee Kermy?
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey?
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next is item F7. This is the 2019 budget for the Downtown Development Authority. Only one page. So Cindy, you just want to walk us through this one as well?
Sure. Okay, DDA. Okay, so basically, this is a very short one. Basically, the revenue from this fund comes from tax capture, which the treasurer estimates it being $340,000 this year. We also get a share of local community stabilization revenue, which is the reimbursement for loss of the personal property tax. So we have that revenue in there, interest, and we're looking at estimated revenue of $463,000. When you look at the expense side, we're anticipating expenses of $178,000. That being made up of maintenance, buildings, and grounds. Contractual services, which is primarily McKenna services for any work that they do with DDA properties like Kmart or the car wash. And this is going up about $10,000 this year because Public Act 57 in the state of Michigan has revised many of the rules pertaining to DDAs, one of which is requiring that you have a development plan for how you're going to spend the money in the DDA. So McKenna is going to work with Kurt and develop a plan for that. We're estimating about $10,000. Utilities, that's 50% of the street light bill that we have all along the DDA route. Intergovernmental services, we charge the DDA for 10% of Kurt and Sue's wages and benefits, since they primarily are the working staff of the DDA.
What percent did you say?
10.
10% of Kurt Heisey's, all right.
I knew that
I
was
work a
coming.
lot more than that on it, but it's okay. Sue does all the work anyway.
So basically, that's our anticipated expenses. So we're looking for net revenue over expenditures of what do I have here? $284,000? Yeah. $284,000, close to $285,000, which will give us a fund balance of approximately $1.2 million. And this is closer to cash. Cash at the end of 12/31/18 was about $950,000.
So let's talk a little bit about that. There have been substantial new changes to state law for DDAs and tax increment finance authorities. One of the things that the state was concerned about were DDAs and TIFAs that had excessive fund balances relative to their overall tax capture. I don't know what the ratio would be for us, but it's a slight concern because we now have to, as Cindy pointed out, we now have to do a state-mandated plan for our DDA. I believe that has to happen, I don't know if it happens every year or it has to be updated every year. But the state is putting all DDAs and TIFAs under more scrutiny now. So I've asked Laura Haw to put together a plan, working with myself and the DDA board, to come up with some kind of a mini master plan for the Ann Arbor Road corridor. We are very unusual in that we do have a DDA, which is, I would call a linear DDA. It's not like downtown Plymouth, that is a very robust, active downtown development authority that generates money and spends money on things like concerts and promotional activities, and has staff, full-time staff. So we are not anywhere near that level of activity. But we are slowly amassing a nice nest egg here that we don't want the state to tell us at some point, hey, you need to either use it or lose it, and that's not a scenario that we want. So we are always looking at updating the landscaping along Ann Arbor Road. We looked in the past, years ago, we looked at large decorative arms to put the street lights and street signs on. That is extremely expensive. The one thing that we are looking to do right now, and we're actually working with Congresswoman Haley Stevens' office, is with respect to the railroad overpass, which is an eyesore. We do have a study, a very well-done study that was done by an engineering firm back in 2004, which laid out some ideas on landscaping and restoration of the railroad overpass. In a perfect world, we would love to see that overpass replaced. It's probably been there since the 1930s or earlier. The railroad folks are certainly not going to spend that kind of money, but we do think that we would like to work with them on at least repainting it, scrubbing off the rust, making it look nice, and then doing something with the land around the railroad overpass. We were lucky last year. I was able to get MDOT and Wayne County to clear some of the brush that was around there. But it would be nice to have something that looks a lot nicer, maybe even involve the public at some point, the garden club or Boy Scouts or other people who could volunteer time to keep it looking nice. The other thing we would also like to do is make that more pedestrian friendly and be able to get a sidewalk or some kind of public access down there, because right now you basically it's a risk, and you're going downhill, and then there's no sidewalks. We cannot have people crossing railroad tracks, though that's prohibited by federal law. So we have to work with what we got, and so that's an ongoing process. That might be a way that some of that money could be spent on a project that would be aesthetically beneficial to the downtown development corridor. Another thing that I noticed is that this building is also in the DDA. And I don't want to get like Westland or Taylor or some communities that have spent virtually their entire DDA budget on furniture and, big screen TVs and new chairs and stuff like that for the township or the city. But I think there are things that we can spend here that are beneficial to all of the public, and that would be like the parking lot, redoing the parking lot, installing LED lights in the parking lot, spending DDA money on the pond out in front, and some of the regular maintenance that goes on externally, which I think, again, is an aesthetic value to the corridor and also to our guests. So these are just ideas that are coming up as part of Laura's DDA plan. If you got any ideas, either let her know or let me know.
So in addition to looking at ways to spend surplus, should we consider lowering the tax rate for these? I don't know how to do that, but in other words, we are over collecting. Should these businesses have the money for them to use versus us to look for questionable ways that may not help their business? I don't.
Well, these
are rhetorical things. Yeah. That's how we plan, but we seem to be building, we're very good compared with most places, but there's all these funds being built up throughout the state. We're taking money out of the private system.
Well, the nice thing about our DDA under state law is that most of the members of the DDA board are the business people along the corridor. So they are the people being taxed. And I have yet to have any of them come forward and think that we're not spending the money wisely or that we shouldn't be doing something more innovative. In fact, the feedback that I'm getting from the board members is they would like to take on a big project, like the railroad overpass, like better pedestrian access. So right now, I hear where you're coming from, but I'm not hearing it from the people who are being taxed and who are in a decision-making ability to do something about it. So anyway, that is your DDA budget. And any other questions? Any questions from the public?
Are we getting good service from the snow removal contractor?
Yeah, we employ Serene Surroundings to do it's not so much snow removal, but it's the lawn maintenance, the tree trimming when it's done properly, which they do, and the maintenance of the sprinkler system, because there is a sprinkler system for that entire corridor. And like any other sprinkler system, it breaks down and things pop out and get lost, and they're out there doing a lot of that maintenance as well. So
snow is no longer our responsibility? We used to have a snow contract.
I'm not familiar with a snow contract unless Serene is doing it on a limited basis.
We've been getting charged for snow removal.
Okay.
We are being charged?
Yeah.
Where are they removing snow? I don't know.
It used to be the full length of anywhere there was sidewalk was the contract a while ago, but I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know. Oh, those might be our guys. But anyway, we'll look into that. So anyway, that's your DDA budget. Any questions? All right, I need a motion.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Heitman.
I move to approve Resolution 2019-03-12-31, authorizing the 2019 budget for the Plymouth Township Downtown Development Authority.
Motion's made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. Take the roll, sir.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yep.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is item F8. This is the annual budget for the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Here you will also see a sizable fund balance, which I know that under the new state law that the brownfield authorities do not have to do an annual plan or report to the state. So, but we are sitting on a sizable amount of money here, which I'm not, I don't know as of tonight. I think we may need to get a legal opinion on what we can do with that money. I don't even know. I'm not sure, frankly, Kevin, if you're the right guy to do that. I mean, we may need to get somebody who specializes in brownfield law, or I may ask our friends at the state land bank what they recommend. Here's my concern, though, with that money, and that is what's going on along 5 Mile. I really don't, the cameras are running, but I would prefer if we hold on to this money and not give it to the Brownfield Authority along 5 Mile, because that's a separate entity. I'd like to keep this in case we need it, if we can use it, in the event we have a developer who is looking for brownfield assistance, maybe something short of a full-blown brownfield redevelopment plan, where maybe they just need some cleanup work or demolition or something like that. I'd like to kind of hold on to that as a economic development incentive if it's needed. But again, legally, I'm not sure if we can do that. So I saw Kevin was making a move to the microphone here. Do you have anything to add?
Just from my research in the last 30 seconds, it looks like funds that are designated or gleaned from a brownfield plan have to be used for the brownfield plan.
He's right, we need a different lawyer. 30
30 seconds. How are you going to build for that? But yeah, and it has to be used for a brownfield plan. And right now, the only active brownfield plan that we have is for the Honda dealer on Ann Arbor Road. We may have one for the Kmart site, but that's on hold. And otherwise, Lock Performance, do they have, but is there a brownfield plan for them? I don't think so.
For the open land that's
But
on
there
the
might
corner.
be, might be. If they decide to
Land on the
expand,
corner.
or if we get if they sell that corner, which I hope they do, and we could end up developing that corner, that's a contaminated site. Now, that's where we would need to have a brownfield plan for that corner, the northwest corner of Haggerty and Plymouth Road. Maybe some of this money could be used for something like that. Maybe it could at least be used to cover our legal expenses or our administrative overhead for administering that plan and getting it off the ground, to pay myself, to pay Laura Haw, to pay Kevin Bennett, so.
You say pay yourself?
Well, my 10% admin cost,
So just going back to the spreadsheet, the environmental remediation line, which is 822, third line down, $7,768. 2018 activity.
20, going up to
Oh,
22,000.
$7,768, right,
Right, that was for the Honda site?
Yes.
yes.
There's no ongoing expenses.
These are,
They were spent many years ago, and we're paying them back.
I think that's the repayment on the, yeah.
We're paying the owner of the property back for having expended that money
To clean it
15
up.
years ago.
to clean up the property.
Okay, I don't understand that.
So Victory Honda back in 2003 spent $318,000 to remediate the land that they put Victory Honda on. And the agreement through the brownfield was that we would repay that loan over a period of time with the tax capture on the Victory Honda. So every year that's capturing roughly $20,000 to $25,000. And so we're slowly paying off that $318,000, $20,000 to $25,000 per year. There's about $40,000 left. So I would, in 2 years' time, that brownfield will be closed, and unless we bring on another one, we'll have no active brownfields.
You mentioned a loan. Who was the loan taken out by?
The loan was taken out by the owner of the Victory Honda, a gentleman by the name of Paul Bolander.
Okay.
He paid $318,000 of his own money, and then the tax capture on that property is used to repay that loan.
You say
show
he
you.
paid it, but then you call it a loan.
That's how
he
brownfields
gets
work. I mean, you get reimbursed
He's
for the tax,
getting
from the tax
reimbursed
capture
from the tax capture
over
revenue.
time.
And he's also getting interest. That was a document that was signed back in 2003.
So there's a legal document where he committed to spending the 300 and some thousand to clean up the site, and the Brownfield Authority agreed to repay that money with interest over a certain period of time.
Correct. Correct.
That's why brownfields were invented in the middle 90s, to develop tainted land.
Okay, any questions or comments on this one? I entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman.
I move to approve Resolution 2019-03-12-32, authorizing the 2019 budget for the Plymouth Township Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
Motion's made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Height.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Pardon me?
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Do I get a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Okay, and I wrote down the questions the board had, and I will get back to you with answers.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is item G, supervisor and trustee comments. I don't have anything. Mr. Dorchevitz.
Nothing here, thanks.
Heitman.
Thank you to all the citizens for your input on the recycling costs. And thank you to all the people at Kroger that answered my questions on would they support a $2 a month extra charge. And the poll did come out 88% in favor, so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk.
I'm good.
Mr. Treasurer.
Just want to take a second to talk about the OPEB corrective action plan that we approved. And I want to thank the board for all the action over the last couple of years regarding addressing these unfunded legacy costs. When I first got into this election and campaigning, I spent a lot of time looking at the financials, and I saw that there was a looming problem out there with the unfunded liabilities for pension and for health care. And unless you're really taking a 5 to 10 year look, that would probably go unnoticed. And this corrective action plan kind of, just was passed today with not a lot of fanfare, but believe me, it's a big deal. It's a real big deal. We were in trouble in terms of our unfunded legacy costs, and I appreciate all of the attention that this board gave it in terms of understanding the scope of the problem, making it one of the top priorities that we had to address this year, going out for the millage to make sure that we could cover these costs in the outgoing years, and then approving this corrective action plan. We've solved a big problem today with not a lot of fanfare, and I certainly appreciate the support of the board in making that happen.
Jack.
Well, I want to dovetail into that because I don't want to go back into the 2016 election per se, other than to recall that there was a school of thought, at least on the part of one individual, who was trying to make the case that the treasurer position really was a no-brainer, that it was these are my terms, you could do that job kind of in your sleep. If you knew how to do municipal finance and accounting, then you're qualified to do it. And that struck me as a bit of a simplistic approach. And when we see the kind of leadership that you provided and the detail you provided to make the case to the voter why this is important, I think it shows that it wasn't just a job you can do in your sleep. If you have a degree from some fine university. Yeah, I know this is, I'm a card-carrying member, I guess, of the Mark Clinton fan club then. But seriously, I think this is really a demonstration of fine leadership on your part and others on this board that went out and made the case to the public on why this was important, and the voters responded. And so what this board did tonight is keeping faith with what happened in November, and I feel personally really good to be part of that kind of action, of upholding the integrity of the process. So thank you for what you said. I commend you. I commend this board for its action, but most of all, commending the voters.
Thank you. Chuck.
Sidewalk gap and sidewalk maintenance, I did talk with the township engineer about it, but I urge you, let's move quickly because good weather will run short come in November.
I have asked for a memo from our engineer on both projects, but specifically on the sidewalk gap project, because I believe that we're going to run into some issues with land acquisition.
Are we going to have something on April 2nd, or we don't know yet?
Yeah, we are, and I know that I know that several of you will not be here, but we have one of the issues that night is the Beck Road Hotel PUD, and I think that we at least need to flesh that out in more detail. And for those of you who will not be here, you can watch it on television afterwards. But that matter will come before the board sometime in April. And I just don't want to put that in front of you guys with no opportunity to study it or ask questions, because I'm afraid it'll, well, you know, we need to keep that moving. I know you're going to have questions about it, so I want to give ample opportunity for Q&A. And if you're not here, we'll certainly do that at the night of the meeting itself. I know the Planning Commission is also asked to meet with the applicant as well, as early as next week, I believe, for further review.
Is this the land that's already been cleared behind Ruby Tuesday?
Exactly, yeah.
This has been going on for 3 years. What is?
Yeah.
I thought we already had the go.
No, we did give them an approval, but they have amended it
changed it.
substantially, and their engineering drawings were not acceptable, and they were rejected several times.
Yeah. At least three changes.
All the trees are gone and grubbed.
Yeah, and we're not happy with that. So, and we will express that. Well, I have already expressed that several times to the applicant, and I know he is going to hear even more when he comes before us.
Absolutely.
So, any comments or questions from Chuck? You all set?
Make sure if we have extra planning costs because of these turnarounds, I think we ought to consider directly billing him for a surcharge.
He is paying a benefit fee to the township.
First one.
Yes, it's
Okay, so we are covering.
substantial.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else on the board? Anybody in the public? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Supervisor, I move
Heitman.
we adjourn at 8:52.
Motion made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Dempsey. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.